This is not a normal WNBA story. Tonight, we're tracking a chain reaction set off by one rookie who turned arenas into sellouts and highlight reels into news alerts. Caitlin Clark didn't just bring a fanbase, she brought a movement. And now, that movement has drawn out the biggest name in basketball history. Michael Jordan has finally spoken about Caitlin Clark, and what he said is sending shockwaves through the league. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll unpack how NBA legends, from Rick Barry and George Gervin to Shaquille O'Neal, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Garnett, responded to Clark's rise, the backlash, and the business around it. Stay with us, because Jordan's message isn't just praise. It's a demand for change that could redefine the WNBA's future, starting tonight. Caitlin Clark's impact starts where most players' comfort ends, 26 to 30 feet from the rim. If you don't guard that space, she turns it into a runway. That long ball changes defensive geometry, pace, and crowd energy in a single possession. But the real story isn't only the numbers, it's the reaction. Veteran eyes saw the Steph-like range, the tempo control, and the poise under pressure. Communities noticed too, ticket lines, national broadcasts, and new viewers who stayed. Suddenly, this wasn't just a promising rookie, it was a cultural moment. When a player forces opponents to pick her up at the logo, everyone feels it. Teammates get cleaner looks, coaches rewrite scouting reports, and arenas buzz differently. That's the spark that turned highlights into headlines, and headlines into a movement. Then came the legends. Rick Barry called out the shade, labeling the criticism around Clark as jealousy and fear masquerading as analysis. George Gervin, the Iceman, cut through the noise with a simple standard: celebrate skill, not politics. Their words mattered because they were precise. No culture war detours, just respect for craft. When Hall of Famers defend a rookie's game, they recalibrate the discourse. It told current players and executives that this moment required maturity. Clark's handle, release, and decision-making aren't a marketing plan, they're basketball. And that framing opened space for honest conversation. Defend hard, compete harder, but stop mistaking physical punishment for proof of toughness. Barry and Gervin didn't ask for favorites, they asked for fairness. That distinction set the stage for everything that followed. Jeff Teague isn't a hot-take machine. 12 seasons, an all-star nod, a ring, he's a pro's pro. So when he weighed in, people listened. Teague said the cold welcome Clark received wasn't just unfair, it was bad business. After years of debating visibility and revenue, Clark delivered measurable momentum, ratings jumps, sold-out arenas, and a broader audience. Undermining that surge, Teague warned, undercuts the entire product. His point was blunt: you can't ask for growth, receive it, then resent the engine driving it. If the WNBA wants sustainable gains, it must embrace the spotlight while protecting the integrity of the game. That means accountability on the floor and alignment in the front office. Teague wasn't scolding, he was offering a blueprint to bank the moment. Paul Pierce poured gasoline early, doubting Clark before she logged a month of games. After the Olympic snub, he tacked toward respect, but with a catch, implying popularity, not performance, should drive selection. That framing kept skepticism alive, even as Clark stacked film that showed growth under pressure. Here's the problem with backhanded praise: it pretends to uplift while moving the goalposts. Clark didn't need favors, she needed a fair measuring stick. As the season tightened, her read sharpened, her pace quickened, and her gravity opened shots for everyone. The tape answered louder than the takes. In the end, development isn't linear, and public opinion rarely keeps up with the work happening between games. That gap fueled headlines while Clark quietly closed gaps on the court. Then came the jaw-dropper. Shaquille O'Neal praised Caitlin Clark directly on Angel Reese's platform, with no hedging and no qualifiers. It landed with force because it stripped away agendas, a four-time champion acknowledging elite skill in the most unlikely room. Shaq's message was simple: respect the talent. You can debate attention, but you can't deny impact. In a heartbeat, that clip reframed the conversation. If Clark's game earns admiration from one of the sport's ultimate arbiters, the rest of us owe sober analysis, not social media sparring. For Clark, it functioned as both shield and signal. The game travels, the work translates, and the respect is real. That moment still echoes through debates today. It also challenged rivals to raise play, not volume, when the cameras roll. Dwight Howard offered the counterintuitive take: missing Paris might actually help. No travel, no bench minutes, no rhythm breaks, Just time to sharpen. Treat it like a private training camp, he suggested, and come back meaner, cleaner, and more precise. That is exactly how the arc looked. Clark's post-break possessions showed tighter handle, faster decisions, and a steadier cadence into those deep pull-ups. The film didn't scream, it nodded. Sometimes, the best development is quiet. Howard's insight reframed the slight into a setup. Rather than chase validation, Clark built advantages. When the lights came back up, the work was visible in the margins. Angles taken, windows read, bumps absorbed, and tempos controlled. That's how good players become problems. Through repetition that survives the next scouting report. Isaiah Thomas zoomed out with a veteran's clarity. He praised Clark's craft, credited her rivals, and then pointed at the media economy that thrives on friction. Controversy sells, he hinted, and Caitlin's name guarantees clicks. But the cost is real. When noise overwhelms nuance, the sport cannibalizes its moment. Thomas offered a blueprint: celebrate competition, stop stoking divisions, and let fans fall in love with the basketball. That's not naive, it's strategic. The league's long-term health depends on centering the product, not the controversy. If the discourse matures, the audience will, too. In that environment, Clark doesn't need protection from criticism. She needs protection from bad incentives that reward outrage over insight. Elevate the standard, Thomas argued, and the game's best stories write themselves on the court. In Indiana, Reggie Miller's name still lives in every clutch possession. So when he said rookies must take their lumps, it sounded right out of the era he survived. But Clark's world is different. She isn't just fighting defenders, she's fighting discourse. There's a line between hard, honest defense and reckless targeting that endangers players and undermines the product. Miller's message, earn it, still matters. It just needs modern guardrails, consistent reviews, timely discipline, and clarity on off-ball contact. The goal isn't special treatment, it's a fair frame where skill decides outcomes. That's how you nurture stars without dulling competition. Reggie's ethos and today's standards can coexist, if leadership chooses clarity over ambiguity. Fans deserve fierce battles, not avoidable injuries that rob the league of its best moments. Magic Johnson went macro. He drew a parallel between today's rookies and the Bird-Magic rivalry that reignited the NBA. The lesson wasn't nostalgia, it was architecture. Rivalries, when built intentionally, lift everyone: players, teams, and broadcast partners. Magic urged patience, smart roster construction, and storytelling that amplifies strengths instead of baiting outrage. Give young stars the right supporting cast, put them in consequential games, and let the drama breathe. It's not about manufacturing heroes, it's about creating contexts where greatness reveals itself. With Clark, that blueprint is obvious: spacing, pace, and complementary scorers who punish traps. Build stakes around that formula, and you grow the pie. Do it well, and you don't just win weeks, you win eras. That's how moments become movements, and movements become institutions. Charles Barkley's take blended support with sting. He spotlighted a mid-season shift, fatigue fading, pop returning, and transition lanes opening for Clark and her teammates. Then he drew a bright line: hard defense is fair, dangerous fouls are not. Hunt stops, not headlines. Barkley also flipped the camera back on us, the media and the audience, asking whether we're rewarding analysis or amplifying outrage. If the league believes Clark fuels growth, it must protect both players and product, enforce standards, showcase skill, and refuse to let discourse devolve into dragdowns. His point wasn't about coddling, it was about credibility. You can market stars or you can marginalize them. You can't do both and expect trust to survive. The audience can tell the difference, and so can the locker room. Stephen Curry's validation hits differently. He didn't just praise the range, he recognized the showmanship, rhythm, and total package, the way gravity from one shooter reorganizes a defense. He even nodded at release timing that mirrors his own. When the greatest shooter alive says the craft is real, the debate narrows. Add the NBA WNBA three-point showcase buzz, and you have a sequel begging to happen. Clark hasn't jumped in yet, but she's left the door open. The point isn't spectacle, it's standard. Fans want to see elite shot-making placed side by side, because comparison sharpens appreciation. Curry's lens reframed Clark from the next to her own, a player whose range is tool, not trick, and whose presence makes teammates better. That's the definition of star gravity. Kevin Garnett sees the pressure as proof. Double teams, trash talk, and contact aren't random, they're respect. Opponents don't scheme to smother players who don't scare them. KG's advice is ruthless and right. Absorb the bump, keep the edge, answer on the scoreboard. Superstardom isn't granted, it's survived. Clark's response, composure, counters, and continuity, signals a floor that keeps rising. The beauty of that approach is its portability. It travels from arena to arena, opponent to opponent, whistle to whistle. If you can maintain reads under duress, your game scales with the stakes. That's how rookies become leaders, by stacking possessions that outlast the noise, and by turning every hit into information they use the next trip down. Garnett recognizes that engine, and so does every scout in the building. Now the headline. Michael Jordan finally weighed in, and he didn't mince words. The WNBA, he said, owes Caitlin Clark real protection and real respect, not lip service. He challenged officiating and accountability, arguing that elite skill should decide games, not unchecked contact or inconsistent whistles. When Jordan speaks, owners and referees listen. For Clark, it's a shield. For the league, a mirror. MJ's message wasn't about granting favors. It was about safeguarding the future by honoring the craft in the present. Codify standards, enforce them consistently, and let the best basketball win. Coming from the greatest ever, that isn't praise, it's policy. And it just raised the stakes for everyone who touches the product, from the floor to the front office. So what does change look like tomorrow night? Clearer guidance on off-ball contact. Faster, transparent reviews on reckless plays. Promotion that matches performance, not controversy. Roster construction that complements Clark's gravity with rangy wings, screening bigs, and second-side creation. None of that crowns anyone. It simply builds a fair stage where skill decides outcomes. If the league meets this moment, everybody wins. Veterans, rookies, and fans. If you believe the game deserves that standard, prove it, buy a ticket, stream the games, and demand better coverage. Jordan's message drew the line. Now the WNBA chooses which side of it to stand on. We'll be here tracking every step, so like, subscribe, and join the conversation below. Your voice, and your viewership, shape what happens next.